ways that we're helping partners finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work.
Welcome to Academy Live.
Welcome back to another episode of Academy Live. We are so excited to talk to some of our colleagues from overseas. This episode is called Academy Goes Global. And really, Academy is already going global and growing. Today, you'll hear from James Davis, Director of Academy from Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, Maria Armstrong, Operations Coach from Melbourne, Australia, and lastly, Michael Ćaćić-Escalera, Director of Academy, residing in Frankfurt, Germany. So needless to say, we want to thank our guests for coming on the show at all different hours and time zones. We're looking forward to discussing the exciting developments of Pax8 Academy in APAC, or Asia Pacific, and EMEA, or Europe, Middle East, Africa regions. We may come from all different countries and cultures and speak different languages, and as you'll hear, have even different IT business models, but we all have the same goals of helping our partners grow their business, gain efficiencies, and reduce risk. I know that Rex, Chris, and I have been really excited to work with our Academy colleagues around the world as they stand up the Academy offerings in all the different regions. And we're looking forward to sharing some of those insights and what we've learned from each other with you here today. So excited for this episode.
I'm definitely excited to hear from James Davis and Michael and Maria. They've definitely been partnering with us to figure out Pax8 Academy around the world. And it's definitely like one of those things like, oh my gosh, we're going global. This, it's like totally awesome. So I'd like to tee up a video where James Davis is joining us. So about 5 years ago, Chris Butler went down to Australia and attended some industry events. And he came back to the C-level crew and said, we got to go to Australia. And so we partnered up with James Davis and Andrew Smith down there and founded C-level Operations APAC. And so James ran that for a couple of years and then became, Pax8 did the acquisition of finally, exactly 1 year to the day later, after the North American acquisition, we got APAC, C-level APAC acquisition done. And so now he's running Pax8 Academy down there. So looking forward to hearing from James in this video.
G'day, I'm James Davis, the Director of Academy for Pax8 down here in APAC, and I live in tropical Hobart, which is pretty much as far away as you can get from the Pax8 office in the world. And I've been the Director of Academy for over a year now, and what we really do is focus on enabling partners through education, community, and ecosystem. And I'm very fortunate in my role to work so closely with partners and have a team of amazing people that we live and breathe working with our partners to help them grow their business and develop their people and grow their capabilities to achieve what they want personally and what they want out of the business. Probably from everyone that's hearing me talk and share information and everything that I'm giving thought leadership around the industry is I'm not really using MSP terminology anymore. And I'm starting to talk about the technology solution partner, or the TSP concept, around future business models. And the reason why I'm talking about the TSP concept is the MSP model, business model itself, is a commoditizing model where the amount of money and the revenue and the value that we've provided in the past is disappearing. And the industry isn't reshaping that and isn't giving our partners a direction to aim for. And I found through all my interactions, when I started building out this concept and starting sharing my ideas, was really helping partner owners that weren't looking to exit and looking at a future to actually give them a direction and something to aim for. And it's been just resonating more and more and more. And it's also helping us bring in other technology businesses into the fold that in the past, an MSP wouldn't often work with an SI, they wouldn't often work with an MSSP. It was all very siloed and separate, where as the industry is shifting and the market's changing with the client needs, we actually need to have a much more cohesive ecosystem where the model isn't to be a generalist and try and do everything for everyone, but we need to partner and utilize different specialities and different people to achieve things to deliver the better outcomes for our clients. I created the TSP Talk podcast and web series to try and help the region get voices from subject matter experts that would help them now and shape their thoughts into the future. There's no one else having these sort of conversations, and I felt a responsibility of, hey, I know all these people, I can ask a lot of good questions, I know what's going on in the industry. How about I bring all these amazing guests on to share their wisdom and just try and help partners around Australia, New Zealand, and ASEAN to just grow their business and try and do something a little different. Because I am in a sort of a special and unique place down in this region. I get to see more technology businesses inside and out than anyone in this part of the world, that I want to uncover and show the wider industry what's going on, because most often, especially the owners, don't get the opportunity to get their head out of the day-to-day grind that running a small business is. And if I can help share some wisdom of what some other people are doing well, what we're not doing well that they're not aware of, and help them shift to a better position, that's why I try and go around and speak. And if I can help the communities as well grow, because it's so important that I think as an industry, the more that we sort of collaborate on things and get better aligned, we're going to have better businesses and a much more professional industry. And that's really what our clients need. APAC partners are quite different to North America. And while business across the world pretty much comes down to the same sort of things of making money, helping our clients, and developing our people, how we go about things can be very different. So Australia and New Zealand, as an example, we have been closely aligned to the US MSP market for quite some time. And as that we've had just thought leadership from the US, it's helped us spark that industry and grow and learn some lessons. But often the detail of how to do things are very different. We've got very different personalities in ANZ to the typical North American people. We're a bit more laid back. We're not as capitalistic in what we do. We have a much smaller market. We're only 30 million people between Australia and New Zealand. And we've only got 6 cities that are above 1 million people. So our dynamics are very, very different in that space. When I open that up to ASEAN, our Southeast Asian cousins, they're even more different. They haven't gone down the MSP road. They're much more of the SIs and VARs, and they have very high technical skills. They've got some very sophisticated ways of doing some things, but often they don't rely on the same methods of delivery and business that we do. So our typical MSPs in the sort of the English-speaking countries are typically built around that PSA and RMM model. That's not the case in Southeast Asia. It often becomes much more of a staff augmentation hybrid, where they hire more people and utilize less systems to be efficient. So that creates a lot different dynamic. They also have much larger markets. Southeast Asia is very much an emerging market, and the population there is way bigger than North America. Their economies are growing and growing and growing, so it won't be long till they outpace the US in what we're doing. So for us at Pax8, it's a very exciting region, because there's so much talent and there's so much intelligence, there's so much they're doing there. It opens up more opportunities to the world, both for the Southeast Asia to export that sort of talent and share that with the world, but also there's a lot of opportunity for ANZ, North America, UK to actually go and do business in that part of the world as well. It gets me very excited to just have that APAC region at the moment of that, let alone what we'll expand into Greater Asia. So I got the great fortune of working with the one and only Rex Frank, and he will love that I always said that. Working with him was a bit of an inspiration in terms of all the hard work that he'd been doing to help the industry and grow and be a go-giver to a lot of MSPs, even if they didn't engage in C-level. I learned a lot from working with him of how to build that sort of community, how to really take that go-giver to the next level, and develop my own sort of personal brand. Obviously, I'm no Rexpert, but I've got my sort of way that I talk and how I help the industry in my own different way, and a lot of that's come down to the platform that we built from off the back of C-level and working with Rex. I want to share sort of my vision for Academy and why it's so important from a Pax8 perspective, because I joined Pax8 because I had a choice. I was already running a business. I didn't have to sell. It was growing. I legitimately got acquired by Pax8 because it's very much that partner first mentality, and it isn't just lip service. And I can say that because I live this every day. And what excites me and gets me up every day is the fact that we can really enable partners and change lives. We've helped partners go from not earning a whole lot and having a mortgage to earning what they should be, mortgage paid off, and having this whole lot of freedom and a lot less stress. And that's the real winning things that we can achieve. And that's where my team, Maria Armstrong, Nathan Hutchison, David Jackson, and Dana Alyssa, that's what they live to. And the team's doing fantastic stuff and building out a lot of material and content to help the region. And what we're really focused on is that future. It's that technology solutions partner journey, because what's working for us today isn't going to work in the future. And while all the traditional MSPs are getting caught up in the cybersecurity opportunity, that's not going to last very long. It's very much a short-term sugar hit. Get the opportunity, then it's going to commoditize super quick. And what we want to do is give that vision for what are the potential opportunities after that. And we can build towards that together through our communities and our education streams. And that gets me excited. It's something that can reshape the world in a lot of ways. If we can professionalize, if we can deliver better technology so our clients' businesses run better and happier staff, that's only going to be better for all the economies, and especially going back to our emerging markets that we've got. The power that we've got in this region is just, I think, it's very untapped. And once it actually gets up and running, we've got so much talent and so much cleverness, and we innovate so well that there's going to be a lot that we're going to share out to the rest of the world.
Well, first of all, I'm in somewhere in the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Probably in bargaining on the Rexburg comment. I keep hoping that thing's going to go away, but I'll get to acceptance eventually. But no, I love that James was talking about being a go-giver and helping and supporting the community and changing their lives. And that's one of the things. Like, we just came out of the Beyond conference, and people came up to me a couple of times and unsolicited, I heard this at least 3 times, where somebody come up and say, we thought we were engaging for a coaching, thing to help our business. I didn't realize it was going to change my life. Right. And that's what makes the Rex bumps come up every time there. And then also, I don't know if you caught when he was saying A and Z, he was saying A and Z. And so I've had to definitely get used to saying Z when talking about that, to other parts of the world. But when I was over in Europe, I did ask if the 80s rock band was at ZZ Top, and they said, no, it's ZZ Top. So I don't know, that left me totally confused while I try to figure all this out. I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, how does that work? That's not my favorite thing. I think is we start to, when you see the differences, that diversity, I think you really start to question or to explore things in a very different way. And so as I've had conversations with counterparts across the world, I just get most excited about kind of learning a perspective. And I think that change of perspective really helps with new ideas, innovation, challenging and questioning things. And just, despite all the differences, I'm excited about, there's still such a commitment to collaborate and to share and build communities. So despite all the differences, there's such a strong sense of community and togetherness that just, it's very moving to me and very motivational. So Bessie, I don't know if you've experienced similar kind of sentiments.
Definitely. I mean, we call the team that's just, me and Chris and Adam and Natalie, we have our small team that we call ourselves Collaborate, because we have that same really sense of we want to collaborate with our partners, we want to collaborate with each other. And I think that really shines through in what you were just saying, Chris. But similarly, Rex, what stood out to me the most was just how much we want to change lives and help our partners grow and do better, and whatever way that looks. And it'll look different in different regions. I think all the time when I teach the building your MSP class, I'm just talking managed services all the time, but knowing that that might not be the right language in every place, and how can we localize and make sure that we are speaking the same language that our partners are, and we're all on the same page. So, and I've learned a lot of that from Maria Armstrong. So I'd love to welcome Maria to the show. Maria, it's great to have you. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and giving a humble brag?
Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. It's
Yes.
6:15 in the morning. So we are a global organization. There are people awake at all times of day and night. Nighttime here still, in the middle of winter.
That is the
I've
weirdest thing
been
to
with
get used to, that it's winter down there right now.
I'd say come visit us, but don't come at this time of year. It's cold and wet and not very pleasant. So wait until winter your time. It's glorious. Look, I've been with Pax8 for just shy of a year now, and it's been a roller coaster year. In some ways, it feels like a lifetime, and in some ways, it feels like less than a month. It's just flown by. I've been in our industry for a very long time, since the 90s. Which is daunting and terrifying all at once.
Tell us a little bit about your career background, and then we'll jump into our quote of the day. But can you just tell us a little bit, how did you get started, and how did you get to where you are today in your career?
I grew up in the IT industry. My parents were punch card programmers, and they met. My mum was the boss, was my dad's boss, which she often reminded us throughout our entire lives. And they met while working at a bank as programmers, and we immigrated to Australia when I was a couple of years old. My dad set up a reselling business, a software reselling business, and then decided in the early 80s that, in fact, he should start charging a subscription to all of the clients that they were selling software to maintain that software and to maintain their hardware and to train them. So he had a whole big training room in the office. They could seat 100 people to train them and make sure that they knew what they were doing, and then they'd have a subscription. So I look at that and I think that was an early MSP. That's what he was doing there, or very similar to Pax8 and the Academy. This whole clients who are trained, partners who are trained, do better. They run better businesses. And so it just sort of felt like a natural space for me to fall into. And straight out of high school, I ended up taking a job at another reseller that my dad knew in the industry, and it was a friend of a friend, and it just felt right, so I feel like I've grown up in this industry. This is home for me. And then I just sort of progressed through. I actually spent the predominant years of my early career in vendor land. So I worked at the old Veritas software before it wasn't Veritas software. And then I worked at EMC. And so I worked in the big end of town, dealing with government and big business. And it wasn't until about 8 or 9 years ago I got into MSP space. So it's a lot newer for me in this side of life, but I love it. Absolutely. I love working with business owners, and I love working in, making such a huge difference for small business owners. So that's me.
Amazing.
And real quick, well, and Maria, before we go into the quote, tell us a little bit about kind of your role and your focus area of what you're really focused on right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so in Asia Pacific, I know Pax8 has been around for 11 years. In Asia Pacific, we're a startup. We've got the vibe of a startup, and we're growing at a crazy rate. We've been around for 14 months in this region, and we've gone from 1 employee 14 months ago to 160 employees, and no partners to 1,400 partners. So this growth is just crazy. When James Davis called me and said, "I'd like you to come join us at Pax8," that was really exciting. I was super excited. And I said, "So what do you want me to do?" And he was like, I all sorts of things, whatever's needed to be done. So officially my title is an operations coach, executive coach. But I've done a lot of work my role at Veritas was in a similar sort of situation. I set up a team from scratch. I grew it from me to an Asia Pacific team of 10 people running a whole line of business. So I've got that experience with that, building a team, making sure we've got the operations in place, making sure we've got communicating out to the other teams and collaborating with everybody. So I sort of naturally fell into that with that experience. So I've been responsible for setting up peer groups, setting up course, instructor-led training, and liaising with all the other teams that we've got here.
And you've learned a lot of lessons, and so that really goes right into our quote. Can you tell us? We ask one guest each show to tell us a little quote. Do you mind just sharing what the quote is and why you picked it?
Yes. Did we have it on screen?
Yeah.
There we go. Lovely. Thank you. And the reason I asked that is because all you have to do is pay attention. Lessons always arrive when you are ready. Paulo Coelho is one of my favorite authors. I've read and reread his books multiple times. This one comes from a book called The Alchemist. And it's not about turning lead into gold. It's about finding that nugget of gold in your life where you are now. You don't need to explore the world to find yourself. You just need to look inwards and look outwards and be in the moment, and you'll find that nugget of gold. So for me, it's that to me resonated. It resonated when I first read it at about 16 years old, and I reread it every 2 or 3 years. And I think I'm going to start. I think it's time for another reread of the book.
Yeah, I haven't read that since I was in high school. I'm like, oh, I should really reread that book too.
I like there's a similar one, right? Luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity, right? It's the same kind of a theme there, right? Like when you're ready, when you're paying attention, that lesson's going to come right on along, and it's amazing because if you're not ready, that lesson comes along and you totally miss it, right? But when you're ready, it will come along and change your mindset right then.
Yeah, and I think mindset is so important. In what we do at Pax8 in the Academy team, I think, helping partners, but we can't help them unless they know that they need the help, or they want the help, they're ready for the help. Because, we've got nearly 30,000 partners in Pax8 globally. And I'd love to see all of them interact with us on a daily basis, but they need to be ready. They need to know that they want to take that step. And when they do, the changes that we can make with them is just, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, and it's frustrating when somebody doesn't, show up to work with us and be coachable, right? And I think when Michael comes on in a little while, we're going to talk about the word coach and how that is differently received around the world. But being coachable is definitely part of the client profile, because if they don't show up ready to learn and ready to apply the things we're talking about, then there's no action, no progress happens.
Yeah, definitely. I did a course recently, and they said, we might be talking about stuff that you know about, but you need to listen. You need to listen, and you need to be aware, and you need to be open to learning and hearing something different. And it was really good to be reminded of that, because, there are times when I think, well, I already know that. But sometimes when somebody says it in a different way, or, we open to hearing it differently, it can resonate differently. So,
Maria, I wanted to kind of, just when we were talking, like I said, Michael, you and I have been talking recently, and as we're collaborating and sharing and kind of learning from each other's, we've kind of identified some unique challenges about going global. I'd love to kind of hear you kind of share some of your perspective about some of the things that we're finding that, we're having to address, or that some challenges about expanding and going global. Do you mind talking about that for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in a fairly lucky position. I'm a fairly global person myself. I was born in England. I grew up in Australia, but I actually spent a couple of years living in the US. So we moved to California when I was a kid, and I did a couple of years early school in California.
That explains a lot of things, actually.
Yeah. Comes to life.
So it was lovely. I had some good memories from there. So I've worked for, as I mentioned, Veritas, EMC. I've worked for a number of US companies as well. So I'm used to kind of collaborating globally. It's a lot easier now. Back in the olden days when we used to have memo packs that used to be posted between offices, these days we jump on Teams, and it's fabulous. The collaboration's a lot easier. What I've noticed over my time is that years ago, here in Australia and New Zealand, or ANZ as we call it, we were years behind. Technology, business operations, everything within the IT space. Companies would release amazing new tech over there, and then 2 years later we'd be starting to get dribs and drabs of it. Where now with this global, with everything being global, we're getting technology at the same time, and it's really a case of making sure that our operations are up to speed to support new rollouts of amazing new tech. So that gap is closing. It's still not there. So maturity, business approach, not only are they different, but they're still not at the same maturity level. And part of that is size. James Davis mentioned in his video that we've only got 30 million people in Australia and New Zealand. Yes, we've got billions in Southeast Asia. But again, from a business approach and business maturity level, they are still years behind. I was talking to an MSP this week who said to me, there's this in Southeast Asia, there's this great thing. I've heard of a program called Managed Services, and we're thinking it's this new thing, and we're thinking we might run our business like that. Do you know anything about it? And I said, yeah, I think I can help.
One or two things.
Yeah, but I thought, wow, that's that I had to stop, and I work in this region. I had to stop and go, wow, okay, hang on, let's reframe how we're delivering to Southeast Asia. We can't just say, come join us. We have to actually almost run two models here. So yes, we're the Asia Pacific region, but we're running as ANZ and Southeast Asia, just from that perspective. So we've had that. Globally, we're the first region outside of North America from an academy perspective to launch. So I've done a lot of testing out of things that do and don't work here.
That was one of the questions we were going to ask you, Maria, which is around, what are some of the services that you've built up so far, and what do you see on the road ahead a bit?
Yeah, so Rex mentioned that James had been doing the C-level coaching here, and James and the team of coaches that were already in place as C-level ANZ came across to Pax8. We officially became part of the Pax8 family a year ago, at about the time I joined, and Nathan joined. And so we've got our little team of 5 down here, which is, it's a lot of work for 5 people, but we've been doing the coaching. That was well established already, and we're continuing coaching partners and bringing on new partners to coach. We are using the terminology coach. That was something that Chris mentioned we are going to consider discussing, or Rex mentioned. We are using the term coach. It does land really well. I think we are closer aligned and probably not following the US, maybe following the US. We do often learn a lot of lessons from America. And so we are coaching. We've been running our instructor-led training. We have run 8 different courses now, or by the end of this month, we will have run 8 different courses. And they're doing really well. This month, we have 113 participants across 50 partners enrolled in instructor-led training. So super excited. Just the difference that we're making to partners. Yeah, no, and the difference that we're making to partners is just wonderful to hear. I had a partner yesterday say, this has just changed my complete approach to how we're going to sell to our so that to me, I just, what do you say? I just like, oh yeah, goosebumps. So very excited. And then and you're hearing this
Can you tell us
first.
too, Maria, I'm just because I'm curious, do you mind just sharing like what courses they're most interested in, partners in APAC? Which instructor-led training are they gravitating to the most?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we started by launching with the very first one we ran was the deploying M365 Premium. We had CAMs and partners, and pretty much everyone was coming to the academy team and saying, you've got to do technical training. It's got to be technical. It's got to be technical. So we did that, and it did do well. But since then, every time we say, let's do a technical, Azure course or the M365 again, partners are like, oh, look, you could, but this is what I really need. So the operations side, service management and project management, we sell out every single time. We have 32 people enrolled for the project management course this month.
That's a pretty big class.
Yeah. So they're just those classes are super popular. People really need that help. It's I know that unemployment's low globally. We're at like 3.5% here in Australia, and with such a small market, it's really hard to get good people who know what they're doing. So we're doing a lot of work helping partners to train their staff to be able to deliver better businesses. So those ones are really popular. And then, of course, security. So security is doing really well. Exciting times.
And I interrupted you, but yeah.
No, not at all. And finally, of course, the peer groups. Peer groups has been something that we've wanted to do for a long time. I think community is really important. I'm super passionate about building community and working collaboratively with our partners and having them work together and, building that ecosystem of vendor and partner relationships, sort of building relationships. That's my passion area. And so will you hear it here first? Peer groups are launching this month.
Wow, very exciting.
Yes. I'm, here in Americas, we've got a team of people doing coaching and a team of people doing instructor-led courses and a team, running peer groups and a team building on-demand content. And right now in APAC, it's kind of like Maria doing all of it and a couple other folks doing coaching. Do I kind of have that right? Or are they helping build some of the little more localized content?
Yeah, so our coaches are doing everything.
Okay.
So we've got a few coaches who are predominantly coaching, but they're also building content, creating new courses. We've created 3 courses in region here specifically for our partners. And they were created by some of our coaches and our subject matter experts, which is great. And then with the peer groups, we'll also be leaning into their expertise and their industry knowledge, and they'll be involved in facilitating the peer groups as well. So we've got.
I need some more goosebumps here, Maria. So I'm gonna try to dig you to kind of what are some wins. I want to hear some of the things that you are either proud of doing or some of the partner wins that have come out from their engagement with what your efforts have been in Academy in your area.
Oh gosh, so many, so many wins. It doesn't even have to be. We think of, and Rex mentioned coaching and somebody showing up to coaching and being open to learning and to growing. It doesn't even have to be as deep dive and engagement as coaching. I've spoken to partners who say they have done one of the 20-minute on-demand training in and that has changed their complete direction of their business. And I think that's enormous, that somebody can watch something that just opens their eyes. Again, they're ready for that lesson, but it just opens their eyes and they just go, wow, my business can just leap to new heights. And that content is something that we don't have here. Nobody else has content like the content we've got in our on-demand academy. And so we've got a lot of partners just changing, growing, developing from.
One of our biggest challenges is, like there's a lot of firms that help partners and they have an LMS and they have something, but like we just sound like a me too, but really the depth of what we have in there, when people actually go in there and take a look and they're just like, oh my gosh, and so one of our challenges with all this on-demand content is localization, right? Like we've had to be careful. Like in the US, our pay stubs come at the end of the year, we get a thing called a W-2 that says how much we got paid. So like a lot of our content, we just kind of freely say it's your W-2 multiple, right? But we're having to revisit and redo recordings we've done and say, no, it's multiple of wages. That way it plays no matter where you are on the globe. Is there anything like that really kind of sticks out that like we have to be careful for, or I don't know, dollars? I was recording something the other day and I was struggling because I kept saying dollars. It's like, man, I got to come up with a word that doesn't, mean dollars.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, in Australia and New Zealand, we use dollars, Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars. But the things like the W-2, you're right, we have to constantly explain that as a piece of terminology. You will hear when you listen to content from the US, you'll hear this is what it means. Here, let me translate it for you. That becomes a tricky one as well. We deal with people and we say, oh, I've just got to translate it. And they go, don't you speak English? And I go, yeah, yes, but.
Sort of.
I've had to do that all the time when I work with marketing and they're building the website. Because you might know we have a website for each region, and I've had some CAMs come to me and say, I can't see the courses. I was like, oh, you're on the UK site, so that might be why you're not seeing everything you're seeing here, because it's not all translated over. But Maria, we've loved having you. Do you have any final things you want to say before we go across to Michael? Do you have anything else you want to say before we move over?
I think just to people watching to really think about what being global means. And it means that being understanding and aware of different approaches, doesn't even have to be languages. As I said, I speak English, and some of the stuff that I say, I've spoken with people in the team over in the US, and they look at me blankly and they go, I don't know what you just said. So, we all need to stop and think and look at things from somebody else's perspective. So, yeah, it's exciting times.
Well, that's awesome.
Thank you so much, Maria, for coming on.
To having you on the next show. It is time to bring Michael on. So, Michael, looks like you're on with us already. Perfect. So, why don't you give us just a couple of seconds, a little bit of a humble brag, and bring us up to speed?
Yeah, happy to do that. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the regions around the world. It's 10:45 p.m. for here, where I am at. And my name is Michael Ćaćić-Escalera. I serve as the director of Pax8 Academy for EMEA. And I live about an hour north of Frankfurt, Germany, so that explains the time. I live near Wetzlar, so for photography enthusiasts, that's the home of Leica camera and Carl Zeiss optics. So if you've heard that name before, now you know why. You might detect that I have no real discernible accent, and that's because half of my life I grew up in the UK, and the other half I spent it in the United States, and now I'm back where I feel is home in Europe. So glad to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I know we have a Pax8 tradition of announcing a weird fact, so I'll go ahead and say mine was that I swore I would never work in an IT company. Those were the weirdos working in basements with snakes around the neck and pet rats and all that weird stuff. So um, here I am. I ended up serving as a CEO of an MSP that we were a partner of Pax8, and did that for a few years. And then now I'm here on this side of the table with some cool kids. So thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah,
Like
David
you skipped
Schaffer
over.
and I went to Europe in the first couple of weeks of April. I think we actually did our first Academy live show while I was there in Europe, and I definitely had the pleasure of talking with you while I was there. So it's awesome. Tell me a little bit about what it's like coming on board with Pax8, in running the EMEA region Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a fun journey because the journey started for me as a partner, where I was really able to see the value of what Pax8 could do for our company. So big believer in Academy because we lived it. We used the on-demand content. We used instructor-led courses. We were in a peer group. And so really we lived and breathed it. We understood the value and how it transformed our team members. So it was a really easy sell, if you will, when the time came to look about the next opportunity. To jump across the pond here, come back to Europe, and have the opportunity to work with Pax8 here. So it's fun. It's really interesting to see the differences already. Culturally, right off the bat, we have multiple languages here that we have to take into account. We have multiple currencies, so there are some interesting hurdles. You just got to jump over them. They're not insurmountable, but we definitely have some hurdles that we need to think through and be wise how we approach them to meet our partners where they're at. But that's in my experience as an MSP, that's what Pax8 does best. And so thankful for the opportunity to be part of that as we build out here and listen to what the partner needs are and how we do that in each region.
I kind of want to see what's like we're talking to Maria, what is available for partners now? What's kind of a focal point or accessible to partners in EMEA?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's already content that's available on demand. So the partners can log in, they can see what's available in Academy. And as we already mentioned, there's some things there that may not be applicable as far as, hearing anything about a W-2 or a 401k or those type of terminologies. We're certainly working on those and being able to get a game plan for how we localize that content. But I don't want that to dissuade anyone from looking and seeing what's available, because there is a lot of fantastic content. And I know that we've got a whole host of people here who are ready to jump on a phone call and explain some things and talk about learning paths and different classes that are available. And so from that standpoint, on demand is the first stop. Going into instructor-led courses, I believe we've already had 3. I think they were all just before I came on board. So it feels like I've already been here for a couple years, but it's only been about 10, 11 weeks. So I know we had one for Azure. We had
call those Pax8 years. Every year is 8 years.
They kind of blur together. You're right. Yeah, so I think we had a course on Azure. We had Modern Workforce, Business Premium, and I know that there's a lot more to come. And like Maria, she got to it first, so kudos to her. Peer groups are coming, and we're very, very excited about that. We have had 15 partners in 6 countries respond positively that they were interested in being part of the pilot launch for peer groups. So we're very excited about that. And there's actually been more interest with partners who were able to attend beyond, and they were able to see what was happening there and the power of peer groups. And so it's really been a fantastic discussion just to see so much energy carried back across this side of the pond and where we're going to take it from here.
And I know we've also opened up, so I've been talking with some of our operations over in the UK or in EMEA about opening up some of our courses. So even though they're in US times and certain courses are not available, like security, that's quite different, my understanding. and contracts and agreements. Doesn't really make sense for someone that's not a U.S. or Canadian partner to take with us, but all those other operational courses, like the ones that Maria mentioned, like service management, project management, those type of courses that are business and team related are open for partners, even if they're in the UK or anywhere in Europe that want to take the course. Even it might be a little late in the day, like it is for you right now, Michael, but they're available for partners to take there as well. As you
And I think
continue to grow them
we're
up.
looking forward to getting all the courses available in all the appropriate time zones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that we are working on a plan to achieve. And to your point, Bessie, it's absolutely correct. I mean, and I think we're all kind of used to that. There's all been, I think each one of us have encountered a situation where there's that one seminar we wanted to attend, or that one webinar, or that one specific topic of interest, and we had to log on at a weird hour of the morning or late at night. So it's not so different. I think we're kind of used to that in this, I want to say post-COVID world. So yeah, as we are able to grow out Academy and where we are able to take more of that localized support, absolutely, the time zone support is going to be there, and we're gonna look forward to having that, maybe in some accents that sound a little bit more familiar. And over time, we would like to also offer language support. So we have some high aspirations, and we have some amazing people who are joining the team and already on the team, who I fully believe are going to be able to accomplish that.
What are some of the languages we think we need to be looking at?
Yeah, right away I would say German. So special hello to all of my colleagues in the Frankfurt office, where I'm actually based out of. They're a wonderful team, and I tried, despite those who know me, I've tried to listen twice as much as I talk since I've been here, which is a hard thing for me to do. But in learning a lot about how the culture is here, and the language of what's needed for our partners, I think translating into German is going to be a strong focus for us. I think that's going to be, again, practicing what we preach of meeting the partners where they're at. I think also, as we kind of expand that mindset, I think also French will be important at some point. I can't promise any roadmaps or timelines for any of those things, but just know that they're already very much in discussion about how we want to tackle those things. But I think that's the best way that we can meet the partners is by speaking in a language that's understood, and that's the native tongue. And there's nothing so sweet as hearing your own language, hearing your own name and your own tongue. And so that's definitely the way that we want to operate here in EMEA is meeting them where they're at.
There's a couple of new regions, like it's not just EMEA, right? Like, and I'm going to try to pronounce this appropriately. I saw Philip was on, and he tried to teach me how to say DACH. Did I get anywhere close? I'm not even sure.
Yes.
But Benelux, the Baltics, right? These are terms that North Americans generally aren't very familiar with. But can you kind of tell us, how Academy's looking to move into some of the other regions?
Absolutely, yeah, and it is because we have lots of nicknames, I guess, or not really nicknames, but regionalized names for these areas. And for DACH, we really talk about Germany and Austria and Switzerland, and these are the German-speaking countries where German is the predominant language, and being able to translate into German. And then as we look at the other regions, it's really interesting the conversations that I'm having so far. For example, so far what I have found in the Netherlands is that there is maybe perhaps a wider adaptation of English, business English being used. And so it's not at all to say that English isn't spoken here in Germany, because really, I have encountered so many people with fantastic English, and it kind of makes me question my grammar skills sometimes. But I think what's interesting is just when we see how each of the languages have developed, that in some areas it's just at this point more widely accepted that in a business context English is used, and in other areas it's still speaking in the native tongue. So I'm still very much learning. I have only at this point visited a few of our field offices, or I shouldn't really say field offices, but other offices, and look forward to visiting more in the fall and going into the spring. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and really keep an open mind and soak in all of the knowledge. And so there's so much to do, there's so much to learn, and really I'm asking for the subject matter experts in those areas just to educate me, trying to be humble and say, hey, I'm coming here with a learning heart and a learning posture, and I want to know how we can best reach our partners, because again, it maybe sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's true. I was a partner. I lived that life, and I know what it's like to be taken care of, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the same for our partners here in EMEA. So I want that experience that I had to continue, and that's only done when we really stop and listen and learn and ask a lot of questions.
So I'm curious to hear from you as you're planning set, and I know it's been a very short time, but again, assume it's PAX 8 months, so it makes it times 8. So you've been here forever. Where do you see some of the biggest opportunities for you to make an impact in your role in that region?
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris. I, I would like to say that it's going to be at first with peer groups, and the reason why that is because it was so impactful for our business, just to be able to have that camaraderie, to listen to other leaders who are experiencing the same or similar challenges as you are. And so to be able to unite some of those partners on a different level and kind of have an environment where we can learn together, and the whole rising tide raises all ships mentality. I really think that it's going to be a significant value, and I don't want to I don't want to underestimate that, because I think there's so much that can be offered in terms of being in a room with your peers and really asking. There's so many calls I can remember being on the phone with Adam Hanneman and some great people on that call and the peer group that he led. And it was, we'd come onto the call, somebody would have asked, does anybody have whatever it was? It could be a job description. It could be, does anybody have a policy around something? And on that exact phone call, within a couple of minutes of your ask, there was 2 or 3 other business leaders who said, yes, I have that. I'll get it to you by the end of the day. And that was huge, because then you
In
have
Academy, we like
immediate
to say
answers.
there's a doc for that.
Yeah. So I really think that peer groups are going to offer an enormous value. So I think that the challenge here is the same everywhere across the world. In Americas, down in James and Maria's way. I think that we've got the concern where business owners are working a lot in their business instead of on their business, and so there's some similarities here that we're not so different across time zones, and we're not so different across languages. We still encounter some of the same business problems, and it's how do we respectfully step into that arena and help those leaders solve those problems and meet them where they're at.
One of the initiatives that came from the crew at Wirehive is the business transformation, the digital transformation work. I know Andy Reedman is leading that. I'm really looking forward from the North American side to learn about what that's about, and probably my expectation is we're going to integrate that into what we're doing over here on this side. So I'm really kind of looking forward to that cross kind of flowing back and forth part. Of the different regions, I think, are going to feed each other more and more as we get more connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, you're 100% right, Rex. And I have to say, I'll come back to the program there as well, but James and Maria have been just instrumental in maintaining my sanity and being my therapists as I've kind of jumped onto the crazy train, because we've all jumped on phone calls that are inconvenient at times a day or night, but they've warned us of some landmines that they've encountered, and some things to avoid, some things to do, some things to try. And sometimes it's literally we all kind of throw our hands up and say, we don't know, but we're going to try, because we want to do something and we want to meet the partners and meet the needs that are there. So really just the support that I've gotten there, and also back home in Denver, where we moved from, it's also been so wonderful just to pick up the phone and get on Teams calls and just talk to people there. And there really has been this friendly spirit of just, what can we do to help? Maybe we don't all know what we don't know, and it's simple to say, but we're all coming to it from the same humble approach of, here's what we have. How can you use it? How can you adapt it to your region? And that's been fantastic. And to your point, Rex, the Partners Transformation Program and the work that Andy and Sophie and Lamar have done, and now Joe's on the team as well, has been fantastic. They've really done some wonderful work with our partners in the UK and also in France. And I'm excited to see how we're going to change the program a little bit. There's some things that we've already identified that will kind of help in maybe 2.0 or whatever it's going to be called. We don't know, but we really see a lot of potential to be able to help more partners and on a much wider scale, perhaps going along the one-to-many route. So lots of good things to look forward there. And also I want to give us a special recognition to Sander Reckfeld. He's really just done a wonderful job of being an Academy evangelist and kind of keeping the fires going. And I think he's seeing some exciting movement. So happy to have him on board as well. And he'll be working a lot with our content management and brings a lot of experience in that area as well. So it's a great team. And I'm very, very thankful and privileged to be here.
And Michael, we're just so thankful to have you, that you came on the show. I know it's getting later and later and later for you. And so I just want to make sure we're getting close to the end of time here. So do you have any final thoughts for us? Is there anything we didn't ask you that you want to make sure to share with us, with the audience, about Academy and EMEA?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a John Wooden quote, and I think he said, "Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do." And at least it's attributed to him, and I think it's really appropriate. That is very much where I think each of us are at in our respective regions, with what we're learning, with what has worked and what hasn't worked, and what we're willing to try. So from our partners, I would just ask for some continued support and patience as we continue to build the plane on the runway, or maybe while it's already flying. We're very, very excited about what Academy can do, and we've got some amazingly talented people who are on board, and just so thankful. So a little patience, little support, but we're definitely growing everything, and it's going to be amazing. Looking forward to it, and what you saw at Beyond is a taste of good things to come.
Well put. Yeah, absolutely. We have a regular recurring meeting now with Michael, James Davis, and myself. And, we all kind of agreed, well, we're just going to have to rotate the time of that meeting so that each of us gets the terrible middle of the night time slot. So little things we're learning about how to run this global initiative.
That's right. Teamwork.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great to get to know you, Michael, and it was great to have you on the show, Maria, as well. I just loved hearing everyone's perspectives on what we had. So now we're in our final thoughts time. So Rex, do you have any final thoughts about our call today?
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for 2 years to take Academy Global and work with the leaders from the other geographies, and now we're finally here. We're getting this going, and I am so excited. I am ready to do this.
And Chris?
I'm thrilled. I just think it's been so much fun. I think Rex had mentioned, the two-way. We're learning so much from the other regions and global, and just expanding opportunity to connect and collaborate with others across oceans is really powerful. So I feel very fortunate to have that experience.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I love getting to know other regions. I didn't have the same maybe international backgrounds as Michael and Maria were sharing, but I love to travel. I love to meet new people and learn from new cultures. So this has been an amazing experience, and I'm so excited to see Academy continue to grow and help partners in all corners of the earth. So this has been amazing. And I just want to thank everyone for watching. Be sure and check us out on July 25th. So we're skipping next week. We'll be back on July 25th. We'll have our guest, Nick Newell. He's an executive coach at Pax8. He'll be talking about career planning for technicians. So you will not want to miss that show. Remember, we are live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain. So you can check us out on YouTube. Please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Rex, can you close us out?
Yeah, Pax8 and Pax8 Academy going global is a result of big thinking, right? Let's not be held back by what we think we can or cannot do. So I'm going to ask you to think about what you can do in a bigger way and what are you going to do differently tomorrow?
Bye.